Good morning, TMG Broker Experience Podcast. Hey, I have two guests on today that I'm so excited to have on. Ken and Amy Schaefer, right here in Raleigh, North Carolina. Good morning, Ken and Amy. How are y'all doing?
Good morning.
Morning, Mike.
Awesome. Folks, I got to tell you, I'm really excited to have them on today because these two are busy. They have built an incredible business. They've done it very quickly to the point now where they're hiring staff, they're getting family members involved. Their business is growing really quick. So I am just so honored to have them on today to tell their story, to talk about grassroots marketing, because look, if there's somebody in this industry that has got this down to a science, it's these two. So we're going to talk about grassroots marketing. We're going to talk about them as a husband-wife team and what's that like in this industry, and all kinds of stuff. So just to get us started, Ken and Amy, thank you for joining me. Tell us your story. How in the world did you get in this industry?
You could answer that one.
All right, sure. I'll start it out. So I worked in IT for about 30 years. And back probably 20 years ago I already knew that that wasn't necessarily where I wanted to stay. Amy was a stay-at-home mom at that point. And I was just kind of fed up with the whole corporate scene and lack of flexibility. I wasn't afraid to work hard, and so did a little bit of investing for a short while, found out that was not my cup of tea. So I had actually stopped the corporate world for a while, went back to the corporate world. And then when I got to the point where I'm like, all right, this is enough, and I had a chance to, funny story actually, I talked to my brother who was about to turn 65. And as two brothers can do, we were whining to each other. Truth. He was whining about not understanding how Medicare worked, and I was whining about the corporate world. And he jokingly said, "Why don't you, leave IBM and go figure out how to help people with Medicare?" And so, lo and behold, it kind of stuck with me a little bit. It wasn't too many weeks later. I was going to actually be having lunch with a friend, a guy by the name of Kent Lindsay, and a good friend of
Kent Lindsay.
Yeah. And I knew Kent and another and some other folks, Byron and Martha Matthews. And I had a couple of conversations. And I basically asked him, "Do you think I could do what you do?" And he said, "You got some stuff to learn, but I don't see why not." And so it wasn't too many weeks later, I ended up putting in my notice at IBM, just literally a matter of a few weeks later. And kind of that's how we got started. Not a lot of game plan, except for saying I wanted to do something different. And so I think it scared the heck out of her, leaving the whole corporate scene. But
I was only working part-time at the time. So.
Wow. Ken, I remember that day like it was yesterday, and I'm sure y'all do too. I remember when y'all came into the Tidewater office and you wanted to come down and have some strategy meeting. And I was like, "Gosh, you got to get licensed first. Like, you got to get licensed. We can't do anything."
And to be honest with you, Mike, that took me off a little bit because I'm like,
"That's funny.
I'm ready to go." He said, "Go get licensed and then come talk to me." But it all worked out, so it was good.
That's funny. Too funny. Well, look, the industry is lucky to have you because both of you, because you all have built an incredible business. Now, this has been is this 4 years now?
It's 5.
Right, 5 years.
Yeah.
Wow, time flies so fast. So let's jump into the nitty gritty. Let's talk about your experience starting off. How did you build this thing so fast? Because look, folks, what Ken and Amy have done in coming up on 5 years is incredible. I mean, they've built a very successful business, and I want them to get into the nitty gritty of how did you do it, what did you do, how hard did you have to work? Tell us that story. How did you build this thing?
Sure. I guess I'll start it because I started it, and then I'll let her jump in.
Yeah.
So when we got started, it was really kind of how's that saying go? Invention.
Necessity is the mother of invention.
There you go.
Yes.
And so when I left IBM, it was all right. I just left a pretty sizable. I had a lot of direct reports. I had had a fair amount of responsibility, a decent income. And so when you just walk away from that, it's like we better go, and we better go now. So there was a little urgency to what we chose to do. And then a lot of it really, to be very frank, we were very fortunate in the way some of the things worked out as well. When I had come in to talk to you, Mike, I realized, yes, I'm going to have to go do some things. But as we got those things in place, got licensed, Came back in and said, okay, I'm licensed now. What do we got to do? And it was very fortunate because I had a chance at that point. John was still there at Tidewater, and he was a little bit newer too, but it was kind of a perfect match because it was like, whatever you need, I'll figure it out. He didn't always know the answers, but that's what Tidewater has always been for us.
Yes.
And so when we got started, there was always the help we needed. And then we were never afraid. He said, how hard did you work? We were definitely not afraid to work hard. We didn't treat it like a secondary side thing. This was going to be our income, and we weren't. My philosophy is I had left the corporate world once and had to go back, and to me that was kind of like being on parole, and I didn't want to go back again. I wanted to be, free from the corporate realm, if you will. It was a lot of work, and so I basically was working as hard or harder than I did in the corporate realm, and I worked a lot of hours there, and she was kind of starting to see what I was doing and said, all right, maybe, you can make that work, and started helping even before she got licensed, just kind of helping keep me organized and that type of thing. And then about a year later, she got licensed. So from the process of getting started, it was probably nothing all that unusual, but we did recognize it that, we basically every day we set the time aside. We treated it, I hate to say it, but we treated it like a job.
Yeah.
And a job that was going to be very demanding because, again, we had goals that we had to meet if we weren't going to go back to that, kind of corporate realm.
Gotcha. So Ken, do you remember the first policy you ever wrote as a licensed broker?
very, very well.
Yeah. Tell us about it.
Okay. So that was, I could even tell you where I was. I was sitting in off from Sheriff Watson Road, south of Sanford. Middle of nowhere. Outside because the trailer I was at didn't have AC, and it was the middle of the summer. And so that was kind of exciting. And so I'm there and talking to the person. And I remember Ronnie had talked about how important it was. It's funny too, how important it was to not just enroll somebody in like a Medicare Advantage plan, but you want to kind of build some depth there. And it's important to talk about hospital indemnity, proper layering of coverage. I remember him saying that. And I actually did, by the way, my first one sold that, but it was probably 6 months longer before I ever sold another hospital indemnity because I kind of lost that thought, I think, a little brain dead.
Yeah.
But so I'm sitting there in that yard and little dog yapping around my feet, and I have a paper app. And so I'm talking to Phyllis and her husband, and I'm so nervous that I literally, remember the little black circles you had to fill out in the paper app?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm literally writing on this app, and I literally write through the paper in more than one place because I'm so freaking nervous about writing this app.
That's funny.
I had never done any kind of sales before, so this was a totally foreign concept to me.
That's hilarious.
So that was they're still my client, our client, by the way. So we've had a number of referrals from it, so it's all worked out.
Gave you the momentum you needed, right? Get the worst one out of the way first, right?
Scared the heck out of me. So
that's funny. Too funny. So, for those that are listening today, comment in the sections below about, your experience cross-selling, because Ken he just mentioned that, and Ken does a fantastic job. So if you're cross-selling now, comment below with yes, so, we can know that you're doing it. But so Ken and Amy, look, you qualify for our incentive trips. You're always on the leaderboard, not just during AEP, but throughout the year. And, when the team here internally, when we talk about you all and what you're doing, the first thing that comes to mind is what you all, now you guys do a lot, like you do a lot of marketing, but grassroots marketing, relationships with pharmacies, and just tell us about your experience with that. What inspired it? What were kind of some of your strategies, and what has it done for your business, having these relationships in the
you want me to?
Well, I can. Ken had a conversation with Ronnie James, and he had talked about an agent in the mountains who did nothing but sit in a pharmacy and write
like 200 apps. 200 apps a
year. Every AEP. And so I had a background where I could come up with the list of the independent pharmacies, and then through just calling on pharmacies, he hooked up with this one particular pharmacy. Your last one of the last.
Yeah, a little background. So Ronnie made that statement, and I'm like, well, gosh, if a guy in the mountains of North Carolina can write 200 apps sitting in a pharmacy, I don't think he's any better than me. We should be able to do that.
Yeah.
And like you said, she had a list with some of the part-time work she was doing, she was able to kind of pull together a list of independent pharmacies. So she did that, and I literally went pharmacy to pharmacy to pharmacy to pharmacy one day. Probably hit about, I don't know, I probably hit over 30 pharmacies in one day.
Wow.
And all no, not interested, no. And the last one, the very last one of the day, I'm like, all right, I'm done after this one. It's like 7 o'clock, almost 7 o'clock, and they were getting ready to close up. And I walk in, and I told them, I kind of explained to what we could do for them. And he said, you won't charge me for that. I'm like, absolutely not. You know, it's basically going to be good for you. It'll be good for us. And I can remember his words very well. He said, that's the answer to prayer. And amen.
Love it.
And so and then about 3 days later, he calls me up and he says, there's actually a group of pharmacies that kind of band together on some stuff. 2 other pharmacies want to know if they can get your help as well.
Love it.
And that was the start of the pharmacy relationship. We work with, I guess, 6 of them now. And it's been a huge part of our business. Probably the biggest one part of our business has been the relationships that we built with the pharmacies. And it's been a process. You had mentioned relationships, and that's kind of, I guess, been a cornerstone for everything that we do in our businesses. You know, can we build relationships, whether it's with our clients, whether it's with our referral partners like the pharmacies, or even we've got some referral partners in financial planners and some doctors' offices and things like that, that we've taken time to build relationships. And most of the time, it's not an instant thing. It's a period of a year or 2 or 3 years to really build that relationship where we start to see it kind of bear fruit, where we bring value to them. And we really, that's what we try to focus on first, is how can we bring value to them?
Love it.
And if we bring value to them, it always comes around and provides, opportunity for us.
Wow. I love everything about that story. I love it that, you worked your tail off that day and you were about to quit, but you did one more, and that one more turned into this huge thing. So for those out there that are listening today, look, there's so many different ways that you can get in front of people, right? But to Ken and Amy's point, you don't always have to talk directly to the person you're trying to market to. It's kitchen table marketing, the pharmacist, the financial advisors. That's something in this industry that not a lot of people talk about. But I'll be honest with you, Ken, there's not a lot of people that are willing to put in that hustle that you put in. But if you just hear what Ken said, it's probably the biggest part of their business these days. It's not direct mail. It's not Facebook ads. It's not carrier leads. It's relationships that he built with these people that talk to seniors, but you put in the work, right? You did the work, which is absolutely incredible. Yeah. And I love that. So Ken, developing these relationships with these pharmacies, obviously one multiplied into other pharmacies. What is it like, having a relationship with a pharmacist? Is it like a weekly call, or is it just a drop in? Like, how does that work?
So we've basically developed a relationship where we're kind of their solution to their problem children. And so if they've got an issue, this is where it's developed too, and I'll kind of talk a bit more, maybe more about how we got there. But today, a lot of times we'll get a call from a pharmacy and say somebody came in and they just said, hey, something's not working right with their insurance. Something looks like it got canceled. Something they switched and now they have extra help, or they lost extra help, or they qualified for Medicaid. They don't know what to do, whatever. And these are the kinds of things that the pharmacist, they want to make sure they keep their clients, because there's a lot of competition with the big box guys. And so anytime that we can keep one of their clients happy by finding something that's going to work for them, that, looks good for them. And so it's very common for us to get multiple people sent to us every week from the different pharmacies that we work with, and probably 95% of them end up in business.
Wow.
And then during AEP, it's also, we've got pharmacies that basically their clients kind of demand our service enough now where they basically have a sign-up sheet. Wow. And they sign up and we go in and we'll run appointments. We have one pharmacy that we literally will go spend a total of about 5 days there. And we have appointment from about 8 o'clock in the morning until about 6 or 7 o'clock at night for both of us, straight through. And and so
like
it's
a preset appointment.
Yeah,
it absolutely is.
Yeah.
And we've had pharmacies send out mailers to their entire base when they were unhappy with what some of the carriers were doing, and said, hey, as opposed to just leaving our pharmacy, can we find something that will help it be even better at our pharmacy?
Wow.
And so it's been, and then what we do is we take time to understand their business model.
Yeah.
So we know kind of what their fees are, what they're getting, charged for from the various different carriers. Are there certain carriers that, are better for them as a pharmacy? It doesn't mean that we can steer, people or anything, but we can still, if two plans look about the same or one works better for the pharmacy, obviously then we want to go ahead and see if that might be a good plan for our client. And so it ends up being a win-win. And even during annual enrollment, we will take time and put together an email and have a few conversations. Hey, now that we're past October 1st, now we can tell you about exactly what's going on with the plans. Here's what's going to be hit when we come to October 15th. Be ready for this.
Yeah.
And then we kind of prepare the pharmacies as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. You think about pharmacies and they want to fill prescriptions. They don't want to answer questions about Medicare.
No.
Like they don't want to do that. They get paid to fill prescriptions. So look, kudos to y'all for developing those relationships. And I can't wait to see where it's going to go just down the road, because I know y'all going to just keep finding people. All right, let's transition to the next topic, because I think this is I love so much about what y'all do together. Just building your business, and now you're developing a team. You just hired an employee. Let's talk about working as a husband-wife, as a team, right? I mean, that's so cool. We just interviewed Byron Matthews, and his wife Martha is involved in the business. But tell us y'all's experience on it. I mean, y'all are like the dynamic duo over there.
Part of it comes from knowing our strengths and staying in our own lane, not trying to do the same thing. The advice we heard was do what you're good at and don't get in the way of the other. So we stay in our own lane. I love being out in the public. I love going to things and doing things. So we had picked up a Walmart one year. So I didn't do all of it, but we manned it together.
The first year we manned it together, and then I'm like, if you like this is all you.
Yeah. So, and
I'm great one-on-one. She doesn't mind being in a group. I'm like, if I go to a party, I'm like, leave me alone. I'll sit in the corner and watch everybody. But but I'll love to have one-on-one conversations. So I do more of the educational kinds of things where we're trying to do kind of a Medicare one-on-one with somebody, or I write probably more of the business, just because the one-to-one I think is an area that I excel at. And then the more group types of environments, like when we do a show or something like that, a senior event at a senior center or something like that, then I'll be there, but
I do all the talking.
And that's okay. That's awesome. That's why y'all are the dynamic duo. And now your daughter is in the business with you, which is so cool. So tell us about how that all transpired.
Okay.
She came to us.
Actually, we got 3 agents that work with us currently, and looks like possibly a 4th, and every one of them has come to us. We've not really searched out a single one. And I think that, for our daughter, she saw that it was going well. She knew she's never wanted to work a corporate job. And therefore, when she didn't really want to follow my path into, IT or big corporate realm. She wanted to do something small business, that type of thing. And long story short, she came to us and said, hey, I think I'd like to do what you're doing. And it's been a process over the last couple of years, but she's pretty excited about it and starting to kind of move into another realm, if you will, of her business this year. I think we'll probably see a bigger AEP for her than ever before. So that's been pretty cool.
Love it. Yeah, folks, you know how these are live? Because the motion sensor in my room just went off, the light. So it went dark. So that's how you know we're live, right?
If you wave your arms, we'll fix it. That's too funny.
That's awesome. I love that story. When people see other people being successful, they're naturally going to ask questions, right? Like, what are you doing? How are you doing it? I have another question for you. So you just hired your first employee a few months ago, right?
Yep.
What triggered that? Why? What happened in your business to where you're like, we need to hire somebody? Because I will tell you, one of the biggest things I see in this industry are folks out there trying to do everything themselves. And even if it's a part-time or maybe a full-time employee, would really help them. So tell me about why you hired an employee, what that employee is doing to help you all. If you want to reveal who the employee is, because a lot of people might actually know her, but I'll leave that up to y'all. But tell us that story.
Well, it had gotten to the point, the business, our book of business has grown so much. So I spent most of my time in the nitty gritty of, I need a member ID card. I have a problem with this. I have a problem with that. And I was spending a lot of time A, on hold, and B, just doing stuff that I wasn't writing and I wasn't marketing, and we weren't able to go beyond where we were. So we started looking around for someone that we could work with part-time, and Isaac Goret's wife had just left her position, had a baby, and we were like, okay, that this would be a good opportunity to be able to find someone who's at least familiar with the industry. So it wouldn't be as much to go up because she did have a medical background. She has dealt with insurance and stuff like that. So we brought Erin on board to help start offloading some of the nitty gritty. I need a card. I need this. I need that. She does. She
running a drug list.
Running a drug list, things like that. She has helped us with doing some Facebook marketing. She's helped us with doing some. She took of our birthday cards. One of the ways that we stay in touch with our clients is they all get a birthday letter, and it had, just wishing them happy birthday. She has taken over that. Because that's time consuming when the book gets gotten as big as it has. And it was just a way for us to be able to leverage our time again.
Yeah, it got to the point where, developing a good sized book is a wonderful thing, good thing for income, but it does get to be rather time consuming just to service that book versus continue to grow the book. And we still have additional goals that we want to hit. And we found that we were spending enough time just in the nitty gritty, as Amy put it, of day-to-day servicing our existing clients, that I was still writing, but even I was taking some of those calls. And it had slowed down the growth. And what we're seeing is that as we kind of restructure a little bit, kind of retool a little bit, we're able to now start to be able to pick it back up where we can write new business at the pace that we were before and still maintain our existing book of business and still provide that kind of service that our clients want. Because I mentioned, we talked about the relationships that we develop, through the grassroots marketing, but that's really what I think has helped us have a successful business as well. Is we try to have those same relationships with our clients. We've never done much in the way of mailers. I can probably count the entire number of mailers we've done on one hand. And so most of ours has been, person to person thing. And, people will talk about even things like, dual eligible population maybe isn't as consistent of a book of business, but we found ours to be just as consistent as everything because we've got the relationships with those clients. They just want to know that they're cared about and people, and so we really take that time very, very seriously. And it does take some time in terms of servicing them and building the relationships, but it takes a lot of time away from the need to do other things like what I'm going to call the traditional marketing.
Yeah, you make a great point there because we just finished the podcast with Byron. We're doing this one with y'all now. We got Kevin Brown coming up. It's amazing to me how many brokers in this industry chase leads. They chase them. But when you talk to the people that are successful in this industry, they're developing relationships. Byron talked about it, how he develops relationships with provider offices and people at the hospital. Heck, even people at the insurance carriers that he can help get things pushed through faster. So many people talk about this industry being a relationship based, but not a lot of people understand what that means, right? Ken Schaefer, who is a top producer and has been for a while, just said, I could count on my hand how many lead drops we've done, right? That's incredible. But what is everybody chasing? Everybody's chasing direct mail, right? And the low return rates and the amount of money it takes to do all that. So I want to commend y'all for that. I think it's so cool that your business is growing and that you're hiring people, you're attracting family members into the industry and other people. And, it's just cool. Y'all are a success story. And personally, I cannot wait to see where y'all are going to be in years. I really can, because I could see you guys having 5 employees, having 15, 20 brokers, and just, the sky's the limit, so it's really cool. It's really cool. So, all right. So before we wrap up this podcast, what is one piece of advice you would give to a broker, whether they're just first starting, whether they're kind of in the middle of the road, still trying to grow? What advice would you give to somebody?
I guess the main thing would, in my opinion, is take time to be aware of the needs of the people that you deal with, whether it's a pharmacy or your client. We never really ever really chased the commissions either. We didn't chase leads, we didn't chase commissions, because we figured if we did the right things for our clients, then it would all work out in the end, and it always has. And so I think if you really care about the people that you're going to be working with and try to provide value, then the rest of it I don't think is all that difficult. I heard a statement one time that if the people that you work with feel like their lives are going to be better because you're a part of it, then you'll have no problem, with enrolling them in a plan or having them be a partner with you or whatever. So if you can provide enough value that they think that their lives will be better because you're a part of it, then you'll have no difficulty in putting your business together in the long term.
That's amazing. I love that. Amy, how about you?
It's definitely about the relationships and realizing that putting those first and putting your clients first means that you will always be taken care of. He mentioned that he didn't even know what we got paid on for a while. He never checked it. He just wrote stuff, and so it is definitely about the relationships, and it's about making sure that you take care of your clients in a manner that makes them feel like they're important. Yeah. And when you do that, then we get referrals all the time. We don't have to ask for them. They send them our way.
That's amazing. Well, folks, there you have it. Grassroots marketing, pharmacies, financial advisors. Ken and Amy Schaefer have built an amazing business off of relationships. I want to thank the two of you so much. You brought a ton of value today. I know that you're going to inspire somebody else to get out there in some state out there where one of our partners is, to get out and talk to pharmacies and hustle, treat people right, create an experience for their clients. So Ken and Amy, thank you so much. Really appreciate y'all. We'll definitely be talking before AEP, but wanted to wish you an awesome selling season. I'll see you guys in Raleigh here in a couple weeks. Seminar, but just thank you for everything that you do. And for those that are watching today, if you enjoyed this podcast and learned something from it, comment below with me. And, I want to thank y'all. So thank you again, Ken and Amy.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
Bye.
All righty.